got a scrimmage in with the referees here being here?
Yeah, we have 2 days this week with the refs, today and tomorrow. So a little bit of a different day, just building off what we did yesterday and kind of a similar format. You know, about 40-45% of the time was drills and breakdowns, and then the other time, the rest of it was live, either one-on-one or some form of 5-on-5, and we got pretty decent scrimmage in as well.
See LeBron's slides. What about Marcus, Adu, and Gabe? And then were there any other guys that were unable to participate?
So no update really from yesterday. Bron again for the second straight day did some individual on-court work. Gabe was a full participant today. No update on any of the other guys. The only new thing is Maxi, kind of tweaked his quad yesterday during conditioning. As a precautionary, he sat out today. He'll get an MR later this afternoon, and hopefully, it's nothing serious.
How have you adjusted sort of your from training camp 1 to training camp 2 in terms of priorities? Is there anything that drastic changes you've made to how you wanted to organize this versus last year having some level of proof of concept from year one?
I would say probably the biggest point of emphasis is just providing more structure in early offense and really emphasizing our running patterns and just kind of being organized in early offense. The second thing is having them run more, just in general, not necessarily just sprints, but just like having them do more full court where they're running and getting in shape.
Coach, when it comes to running and speeding up, often when that happens in any kind of field, a technique can start to falter with that speed. So how do you get them to kind of get into those early actions and push the pace without, maybe an increase in turnovers?
I don't think it's going to lead to more turnovers. If a throw ahead is open, we make a throw ahead, and then we get it back, and we're in our first action. If there's not a throw ahead, it's really just about what does it look like with the 5 in trail, what does it look like with the 5 at the rim, or in some cases Rui or LeBron or Luka ahead of the basketball. But in terms of turnovers, I don't think that plays into it.
For a variety of reasons, you played your 2-way guys last year to the point where late in the season you had to monitor the days remaining to save them for the varsity club. Have you kind of had a chance to reflect on that, and will that inform how you use your 2-way guys this season?
We have, to start the year, we have a much deeper roster. Even though we have one less player, we have a deeper roster. We also, I think, have more health given, we had 2 roster players that weren't even in camp with us last year in Seawood and Bando. So I haven't necessarily thought about that part of it in terms of managing games because, again, we don't even know what opening night looks like. I would say in general, the communication and the planning for our 2-ways between myself, Zach, Chris Ebersol with player experience and RP, I think we have a good plan in place. Player development as well, of course, they're going to be involved in that, but I think we have a good plan in place for how that looks and how we're going to manage it. Just kind of mapping out things 2 weeks at a time and giving Zach, continuing to give Zach I would call it instruction on sort of what we want those guys to do when they're with him versus when they're with us.
JJ, throughout preseason, what are the main factors you're going to evaluate with determining guard rotation?
Health.
I see. Yeah.
Health. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You can sort of look at a team on paper, but until they're on the court, you don't really know. I think it starts there. No, we're going to play Austin and Luka. I think they're going to play. Marcus is going to get healthy. Gabe's, I think trending in the right direction. Jake will play. And the rest of it is a competition.
JJ, last season you were transparent about being more like a team defense and focusing on shifts and rotations. having like an individual stalker. Does that change this year with Marcus, assuming he gets healthy at some point, Vando having a healthy offseason? Like, how do you view your team defense now compared to last season?
I think with a healthy Vando and hopefully a healthy Marcus, I think our ability to put more pressure on the basketball earlier in the defensive possession will be a real thing. I don't think, it's night and day the way Vando's moving right now, even from when we finished the season. Like his growth in body mechanics this summer is significant, and it's evident in the first 2 days of camp. As far as our shift presentation and rules, like I don't necessarily think we're going to change a whole lot. There's always tweaks. There's tweaks to language. There's tweaks to techniques and stuff. There's a little bit of that, but certainly those guys give us another weapon defensively.
If Vando's able to get back to the level of athleticism he was at before the injuries, like, obviously we know what he can do defensively, along the baseline, on the glass.
Yeah.
How's that going to fit? What you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, your hope is that you get, and it looks like we do have the pre-injury version of Vando. And I talked about a lot with him this summer about this. Like he got put in a tough spot post-trade because he had to play the 5. There wasn't other options. It was play small, have him be the backup 5. Those were our 2 options. So I think getting him back on the perimeter, and his body being in a good place from an athleticism and agility standpoint will be super helpful for our team.
What went into identifying, bringing greater structure to the early offense? What went into identifying that as a priority for this team coming to the season?
I didn't hear the question.
What went into identifying, bringing structure to the early offense? What went into identifying that as a priority coming into training camp?
What went into it? Well, I'm still not.
In the sense of, did you see it as something that the more successful offenses were doing, something that you saw even during last season that?
No. It's just about what's best for our team. I think. It's like literally up on my board up there. It's our 3 best players are going to create a lot of our offense. So how do we get our 3 best players sort of in a structure where they're all involved in our offense? And it's just about creating very clear sort of priorities and goals in early offense. That's really all it is. I mean, it's actually not complicated, to be honest with you. Are you in 5-out spacing? Are you in 4-out, 1-in spacing? And what are the triggers that lead to your first action? But it's, again, I think where our team last year, having multiple versions of the team, having multiple primary ball handlers, I don't ever feel like we got into like a super good rhythm with that. And then obviously adding Luka post-trade, that's a whole nother team. So I really look at this entire preseason, this early part of the season. It doesn't happen overnight, but I think we'll be in a good spot with our early offense.
So JJ, knowing that you've always liked what Gabe brings to the table, how do you see how he can complement so many different skill sets with your other guards, whether it's Luka, Austin, Gabe, Marcus?
Yeah, he's a secondary ball handler. He's a laser to me. I mean, his start of the season didn't shoot it well from that Utah game that he started on. He's qualified as a laser. Like he can play off ball, he can play on ball. I think his toughness, one of his big things and my big things for him this season is just his leadership. He's been phenomenal the first 2 days. He was great all of September. I love that he's embracing that. He certainly has the respect of his teammates because he's such a professional and he really respects the craft and he takes care of himself. And if you were to do a teach tape on how to do a rep of a shooting drill, you'd show a Gabe Vincent thing. He's just a pro, and I think him embracing that leadership role is going to be big for us.
How did you